Hi, my name is Keianna.
Hi, and I'm Genece, and welcome to the With Love Your Mental Health podcast
This is a collaboration between Sincerely Your Mental Health.
and Jim's Mental Health.
Welcome. And low key, it started as a joke. Um, when I sent to you, I'm like, oh, I wish. What did I say? I wish we can start
I
something.
was actually going to go look for it today because it was like we were talking about something. He was like, "Oh, I wish we could start a podcast." And I was like, "Why can't we?" But I don't remember what we were talking about.
Yeah, I forgot what it was. Something. I think somebody was asking a question or something like that, and I was just like, oh, I wish we could start it. You were like, why not? And I'm like, heard you, and now here we are. Welcome.
That is brave. I just be, why not?
Why not? Why not? That's you. That's you. I feel like you like take a joke too far, but like in a good way. You're like like, oh well, why not? And now here we are with a podcast. Okay, so besides the part where obviously we're both in mental health, like what do you feel like even from when I said like what inspired I wish we could do this. And then you're like, why can't we? Like what made you feel like we should?
I think because at this point, I feel like we have to normalize mental health, and that doesn't happen. We talk about like debunking the myths and all those things, and that doesn't happen without conversations.
Yeah.
I also think that I felt like it's unfair. How do I say? I think we don't often talk about like the racism in mental health and mental health services.
Yeah.
So I am passionate about the people who can't afford me. And now that I'm a mom, I need to make money, but there are still people out there that need the services, need the interventions, the skills, all of the things to be part of the
Yeah.
conversation or hear the conversations that can't afford to go to therapy or aren't ready to go to therapy, but would sit and listen to a podcast. So I'm like, how can we get the information out there? How can we debunk the myths and all and everything like that
Mhm.
in a realistic 2025
Yeah.
way? And
Yeah.
it was like podcast.
Oh, no, I like that. No, that is very true. That is very true. When I first started doing therapy like on my own, I'm on one of the platforms that I'm on. I remember they start you get to put in what you how you want to be searched. And I put in um they start you at if you're doing out of pocket, they start you at $150. That's like the standard. And I asked a couple of like other therapists that I knew at the time, like, what's your out of pocket rate? And they're like $150. And I'm
Mhm.
like, a week? Because let's be clear. Therapy, especially if you're working on a problem, you should be going every week, at least for the first 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Depending on whatever the modality is or whatever that looks like. But I'm like, I just can't rationalize somebody putting me into their budget for that much money every week.
Mhm.
Not that I'm not worth it, don't get me wrong. But if we're talking about out of pocket, like if somebody's out of pocket, it means they don't have insurance. Like, you know what I'm saying? It means that it maybe they can't afford the insurance. If they can't afford an insurance payment every month, why would they be able to afford $150 a week? So what I did was I changed it and it went down. It was like 150, 90 to 100, and then 85 or 80 plus.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I switched it to 80, and I literally got 15 requests in a
Wow.
day. I had to turn it
Yeah.
off. I had to turn off my um my availability that I wasn't accepting new clients until I can call 15 people. And my consultations are free. At that moment, I kind of did want to charge for them because I'm like, this is taking like hours because
Mhm.
it's 15-minute consultations with everybody. I'm talking to everybody for at least 15 minutes. But I'm like, you know what, whatever. And for some of them, like we still like we moved on or whatever. And I did end up like increasing my prices, but I personally don't see myself ever going past like 100 because like what? I just feel like that's so much money.
I never thought about getting into private practice, but I think now I kind of do want to get into private practice. But of course, I'm in the opposite where I just throw myself in these experiments. So like I see the difference, or I have personally felt the difference of going to someone that you pay out of pocket. Like the most recent therapist I went to is she's like $185 an hour out of pocket. She don't take insurance, none of that. But her credentials are real. I've
Right.
also gone to like people through the church who are passionate about it. So like it's
Mhm.
pretty good. Sometimes they're not licensed or like don't have the background, but they do
Mhm.
care. And then I've gone to people who, you know, is through insurance, and she was in the gas station or getting some chips during my sessions. Like, oh girl, hold on a second. So
Yeah, no.
like it's very real, like the type of service that you get based on your
Yeah,
income. And I just feel like that's not fair because your mental health is very important. If we
it is
invested more in people's mental health, maybe the world wouldn't look like what it looked like right
what it looks like. No, agreed 100%. I feel bad for people who, like, when they come to me, they have horror stories like that. But I do also understand the like about the credentials as well, because there are some credentials that you get, some trainings that you get where, I mean, not for nothing, on the side of like the therapist, some trainings cost $2,000. You know what I mean? So it's like some of these trainings, they're not just like $150 for a couple of hours. Some of these trainings are
now.
over months, and you're working with somebody, especially now that everything's virtual. Like, you're working with somebody and taking up your time, and you're paying that. You're not getting paid for that time. And as a
Yeah, and then
therapist,
a lot
you
of things
are
have to
working
be
on your thing.
renewed. Things
Yes.
have
Oh,
to be renewed every year or
yeah.
every 2 years. So like
Mhm. Yep. Every
you
2
spending
years, you have trainings to take, all the trainings. I was looking at all the trainings that I have to do for, not, I just renewed this year, but for going into the next 2 years, I'm like, none of these are $50. These are all expensive. Like, the ones that are free I could do, but the ones that are free are not. And not to say that they're not good. They're good to, keep your mind when you're talking to people, you do your thing. But I mean, some of these trainings are very, very expensive.
money.
So it's like, I get why people, but I mean, we talking about regular and not regular, because everybody's thing is different, but we talking about regular CBT now. $150. I feel like that's a lot. I feel like that's a lot, but you know what, people do what they have to do. People pay what they could pay. So, but there are things like sliding scale and things like that. So if you are looking, inquire about things like that. So that's
Yeah,
another thing.
that's definitely what I would want to do. Like after I get this clinical license, like
Yes.
do private practice or
Yeah.
have a private practice. I don't know what my role specifically would be yet,
Mhm.
but have a sliding
So I
scale.
have my own private practice, essentially. Like, I work, it's my name is PLLC, and then I have insurance for it. So I have my own private practice, but I have thought about, like, even having people under me, and I do everything on my own right now. And it's not that bad. It's not bad at all. But I just think about like what expanding and stuff looks like. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
there
I
yet.
think another
But
real thing is like even with private practice, while it's easier to like do virtual and it's great to be able to do virtual, like there's still a large percent of people who want to come in person.
I'm in
So
person.
even like being able to manage that um would just be things that like you got to think through and work through
Yeah.
because some people need a safe space, like they don't have a safe space, so they need to
Yeah.
be removed from the environment that they're in
Mhm.
for an hour a week.
Yeah. And I think it's funny that you say that, because I I worked in person for a while, even before being a therapist. Like, I worked in child welfare, so I was in people's homes. I was all over the place. So, and what I've seen with how virtual is helpful is how sometimes people can't get out of bed. So
Mhm.
it's helpful, but I like that perspective too, where sometimes people need to get away, because
Mhm.
I don't know if I'll ever be in person again. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Now I
I
remember when
don't.
I was doing private practice, like there was a mom and her daughter, and like it was great that the mom wanted the daughter to be in therapy, but like the daughter would be in the room and we're in session and the mom's like busting in the door, tell her about what you did, or like tell her about this part, or tell her that you did this. And it's
Mhm.
like there's no privacy. Like we can't really make any progress because
Right.
like you at the door listening.
Yeah.
And with
So
like not just listening so that you have the information, but you actually busting in if you don't like what she's saying and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh,
No, that is true too. That is true, but that is also why I only work with adults now. Why I really only work with adults, because when I worked with kids, I experienced that. I experienced that because, it's, I think adults a lot of times use therapy for their kids as like a punishment, which is a problem
Mm-hmm.
because you don't they like I realize a lot of parents would say like use me as a threat, like, oh, I'm going to tell Miss Kiana, I'm going to tell Miss Kiana you're misbehaving and stuff, and I'm like, first of all, that's never going to work because 9 times out of 10, I have to bribe this kid to talk anyway. So they have a fun thing. Like when I used to work with virtually with the littles, it's like, I'd be like, hey, if we can get through this worksheet and you can tell me like how you manage your emotions or whatever for like 45 minutes, I'll let you share your screen and you can show me your Roblox for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how they would come in, and that would be the motivator. So you're over here saying, I'm going to tell on you to somebody who's like bribing them. That's a terrible system. It's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think I mean, this doesn't have nothing to do with mental health, but I think this makes me think about the other day I saw something and people were talking about how like when their child gets in trouble, they're like, oh, I'm gonna make you read a book. Like, and it's just so crazy that
yeah.
things that are so important or like needed for like young people to be successful, like parents are turning it into punishments, but then we're
Yeah.
confused as to why the kids are the way they are. Like
Yeah.
if prioritizing their mental health and reading was a punishment, why are we surprised at how they're acting now as teenagers?
That they don't want to do it. That they don't want to do it. That's a whole. I just saw a thing that said it was talking about not even for adults, not using negative. Like if you're on a fitness journey, don't use the something that's the opposite of your journey as a reward. So because when you're thinking of it, so if I'm on a fitness journey and I eat well and I work out all week and then my reward is ice cream,
Mm-hmm.
that means that technically
But
what
you're
I'm
doing
doing is a
that.
punishment. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's like technically what I'm doing is bad. So because if this is the reward, then what is this? So
Mm-hmm.
it's be careful like how we label things and how we reward
Programming,
ourselves. So
like the programming.
yes, programming.
My favorite thing to talk about is like programming and reframing. So helping people really identify like how their upbringing and their childhood, their experiences, their parents really impacted or created them to be the person they are now and created the way they think and everything like that. And even empowering them to realize that although this is how you've been raised, you do have the power to change that.
Mhm.
So, the way that you saw things growing up is okay, but if you realize that that's not the proper way or that there are other ways to see things in life, like you do have the power to change that about you.
To
I
deal with.
think my most difficult situation would be like working with clients who enjoy causing harm to other people. I think because I'm just like a very caring person and I just love everyone, it's
Mhm.
hard or more difficult like clients who enjoy harming people, whether it's physically, sexually. Um, those are more difficult for me.
So difficult. Gotcha. Okay. My least favorite or topic that I find, and it's not necessarily one topic, but it's one is people who, like their lifestyle just goes against like any moral or ethical or ethics that I have. Um, and I won't be specific, but it's just difficult. It hasn't ever stopped me in the past because I have worked with people who are like when I say completely opposite in every way you can think of, and we've had successful outcomes because it doesn't really. I don't want to say it doesn't really matter, but for the most part, it doesn't really matter
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're looking for help, that's what you're looking for. That's
Yeah.
what you're seeking. My favorite thing to talk about, which might sound a little weird, is trauma. Like when people come in with trauma, it's something about it, and it doesn't really matter what it is because there's a modality for you. There
Mm-hmm.
is there's a way that you don't have to live that way, or or live in the shadow of that, with the habits of that, with whatever it is. And that is something that just that thought pattern, that's how I think of it. So when I used to work in an agency, we would get a lot of trauma clients. And I feel like that's where that like endurance for it was built. And I had a lot of trainings for it. But it's just something about it where they're like, this happened to me. And I'm like, let's get to it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's something about it. Like, okay, it happened to you. It's not who you are. It's like
Yeah.
it's part of the story, but it doesn't mean this is it. So that for me is what gets me going.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I think that might be like one of the most rewarding parts. Like I tell people, like when you see your client, or for me, like students, like get their power back. Like so
yes.
many people are like victims to like you said, like their upbringings or the stories or the things, the trauma that has happened to them. But when they realize that like I don't have to be this, or like I am in control of who I am, how I interact with other people, how I represent myself, like all the things, like when they get that power back, I think that's like one of the best parts of this job.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's like, and it's so weird for me sometimes. Like, I even tell my clients, I'm like, I know you're having a hard time, but I'm really excited for you because, like, thinking about you 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 months ago, whatever, like, think about what you would have done, or like, think about what you did do in this situation, and now you're talking about it versus it being like a thing of shame, and now, and now you're just back in that cycle. So it's like I feel like it's weird things that I get excited about when it comes to therapy, but I just be so happy for people. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you did that. Like, oh, that happened to you. Don't worry
Mhm.
about it. Like, literally, don't worry about it because it's a way to get through it. So
I have so many, and I said I really need to sit and like plan everything out. But of course, first is getting my clinical license. So I'm a social worker right now, but I'm working on getting my hours and everything to take the clinical
mhm,
exam to be a clinical social worker. I definitely want to, like I said before, do get in like the private practice field, because I think just like it seems like not that there's a shortage, but like there's so many people that like will want therapy in
yeah,
July and then be put on the list and can't see someone in September. So just like being able to help with that. Of course, we're from the Virgin Islands.
yes,
So putting like doing a private practice down there, putting
yeah,
resources down there. I think the biggest part for me in the future is finding a way to teach people, young people, the skills before they need it. I think
yeah,
that is my passion, and that's what really drives me. I
mhm,
think, we are doing the work right now, like after the trauma has
yeah,
happened or after so many things have happened, but like what would life be like if people had better communication skills or anger management,
mhm,
boundaries, like if these were taught, like as simple as 1 + 1 = 2.
yeah,
um, so it's just like, that your coping skills, what works for you, your boundaries, your limits, how to like
yep,
regulate your emotions, all of that. So that's my goal, or that's my why, is just
mhm,
figuring out like what that looks like in
yeah,
terms of like the services or the things that I create.
mhm. So what you you'll work with the kids when we go back home, right? You'll work with the kids and teach them the skills before they know it, and then I'll be working with the parents so they could implement it at home. Like, I already see like we're there. That's
Yeah.
what it's gonna be. Like, no, but for sure doing something in the Virgin Islands for real. Because when I think about it, I remember writing about stuff like that in high school. Like, oh, this is where I'm from. I'm from this island, and in the Caribbean, they don't do this. It's like this. Not really understanding that I'm talking about stigmas. You know what I mean? I'm talking about
Mhm.
like generational habits, like generational bad habits. So for sure, yeah, coming soon at
Yeah.
some point. Coming soon.
Yeah.
Coming
I
soon.
think
But
that's the whole, like, I think we spoke about it before too. Like mental health is one thing, but then like mental health in America, mental health in the Caribbean, like these are like that's a completely different beast um
yes,
to
it is.
tackle. And also like with everything else, we're making strides and stuff up here, but it
Yeah.
trickles down there differently.
Yeah.
Um so they're not as far as we are up here.
Yeah.
Um but really wanting to, go home and help people.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that is surprising to me, like, I don't, even in my bios and stuff, I don't have anything about like I'll put like, obviously I'm from New York, but I don't put anything about that. But I find it so funny that like the amount of Caribbean, like people who were either born in the Caribbean somewhere or first generation American, like Caribbean American here, is kind of crazy. I don't think that's by accident. Like
Yeah.
it's just I feel like it's just meant to be like, well, they'll talk about being from an island and I'm like, oh, I got you. Like because
Yeah.
the things that we learn here, like you said, it's just not it's not in a book. It's not really in a book. Like we can put it into like, like into clinical terms and stuff like that, but some of the habits or just like the things of the culture are not. You just kind of you had to know it or literally have gone through some things or witness it or are still witnessing it to like move through and then connect it to like clinical things of today, like of the present day. So
Yeah. And I think I was talking to somebody about just like living home, like the level of patience and um just everything going on at home like impacts your mental health.
it
Like the
does.
people down there are so resilient, so strong, and so powerful, and I don't even think they realize it.
Yeah.
The way they're able to navigate living in the islands.
Yeah.
People come down for vacation and it's paradise and it's the beach and stuff like that, but the perseverance and the community coming together, like all the things down there, like
Yeah.
it's amazing, but it just isn't highlighted or put in words for people to really realize like what's going on.
I think it's because, like you said, they don't even know. Like they don't even recognize their own strength a lot of times, and then it's just clouded with like a bunch of different things. So then, mental health is like put on the back burner. So
Yeah.
there's that too. I think for me in the field, I know like I definitely want to be a supervisor, like a qualified supervisor for other therapists who are seeking their license. That's like a part of the process. You need to be with somebody for 2 years and meeting with them for it's 100. I think it's 100. Yeah, because it's 2 years.
I think ours is 100 too.
Yeah, it's 100 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So you do individual and group. So I think it's like 50-50 or however that goes. So that I haven't been licensed long enough on my own yet. I think I have about 6 months left, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. Yeah, by February, I think. Not February, May. May. So maybe a little over 6 months. Because it's when you have to be licensed for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? I don't know. That math doesn't seem right because I've been licensed for 2 years. I forgot what it is. I think it's working on my own. I don't remember. I have to look at it, but I know by next May for sure I will be able to do it on my own. You know why my math gets messed up? Because I think about when I passed the test. That's
Mm-hmm.
why because I passed the test and then I wasn't licensed until a year later. So that's why I'm always thrown off. So I have to look at it. But that's one thing that I would want to do. Just teaching therapists how to be therapists. You know what I mean? Like figuring out like what your strengths are, like just how you deal with different because I had that support. My story was a little rougher because I had like 2 different or 3 different supervisors like through my process. But the last one I had was very supportive and very like challenging. And like I remember telling her, I'll never forget one time I was telling her about this client, and I'm like, I just know they're like not telling the truth. Like I just know it. And she just looked at me and she was like, "Why does it matter?" I was like, "All right, you ain't got to talk to me like that, but okay, girl, whatever." Like
Yeah.
because I just didn't even think about it in the moment because it was about me. I'm like, it's like me trying to prove the client wrong, which is like that's
No,
not.
I think that's big, and I think that's where a lot of people are. Like, I've
Mhm.
noticed lately that a lot of people are not able to like be empathetic or like really
Yeah,
put themselves in someone else's shoes because they're always focused on themselves, and not even
yeah,
like in a bad way, but I guess it's just natural.
yeah,
Like they were like they're unable to think like why this person is acting like this or why this person responded like this or everything that's going on in that person's life that's contributing to this one thing. Like sometimes I feel like we look at things in the moment and don't think about like everything else that's impacting how this
yeah.
person is showing up in that moment.
Mhm.
It's like it's big. I think as a therapist, it's like remembering, like you said, like it's not about us and that everything is an assessment. So if this person is lying,
Yeah.
why are they lying?
Yep.
Why is it more comfortable for this person to live this lie or speak this lie? What's preventing this person from telling the
Yep.
truth?
Yep.
So like, getting
And
to the bottom of that versus just like why they keep lying to me.
Yeah, no, literally. And also realizing that like they might be delusional. Like not even delusional, but they may be experiencing delusions.
Mhm.
Like so they're telling you something that, and this is what I learned in that, which is why I would like to continue it. It's like, so the person who I was talking to, I realized like she was lying, but then when I was able to take myself out of it, like me trying to prove her wrong or whatever the case, um I realized she was experiencing delusions. Like she's telling me what she's seeing and what, you know, she's going along and she's seeing somebody, she's seeing this little kid or whatever like walking alongside her, and I'm like, why are you lying? Like nobody's leaving that kid unsupervised. But it's like, no, she's like having a delusion of this child, and then is delving deeper into that. But I'm not going to be able to do that if I'm trying to prove a point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think, but it takes, you know, as a therapist, like you have to, and even for people listening who have a therapist, like you got to check yourself. You have to check yourself once you get into this thing of like you have a power over people, or you look at yourself like higher than versus like somebody that's just helping. You're lost. You're
Mm-hmm.
lost. You know what I mean? Like I've even and that's why you need community, right? Even as a therapist, because you have to check yourself. Like, is it me? Or even me just asking myself, like, what is it me now? Because is it me? Like I had to tell, I recently was talking to one of my clients and I had to tell her, like, because I noticed myself getting upset. I noticed myself getting upset, like, and even reflecting on it with like thinking to myself afterwards, I'm like, okay, why am I getting mad? And it's, I could easily say, like, well, you know, we talked about that already, like, you know, we this or that, but it's, I could do that and just lose them completely in their healing journey, them not ever want to come back. Or I could think to myself, like, okay, well, what is it? Like, why is it, why are they showing up this way when we
Mm-hmm.
have talked about these things? And I just came to the conclusion that they weren't ready to step into the healing because they were so used to trauma. And I literally said that to the client. I said that to them. I said, you have made a lot of strides. And I think you're so used to functioning in the negative. Every time that something positive happens or you make a stride, you sabotage yourself and
Yeah.
shift change in sessions after that. But I could have easily been like, well, why you do that, girl? You know what I mean? Or just been like mean about it. Not maybe intentionally, but that's how it would have come off. So I
Yeah.
think
I
that
think people don't think about that often too. Like, if this is all I know, like it's very uncomfortable to be different. Like everything that I am is connected to the trauma or whatever that happened to me in
Mhm.
my mind. So
Yep.
if I am no longer attached or like held down by that, then who am I?
Who am I?
I
Yep.
also have to be able to look at myself and realize like I've been the one holding myself back all these years because this person who did it has moved on. And for whatever reason, I chose to kind of attach or pull this along when I
Mhm.
should have let it go. And it's hard to like self reflect and accept that about yourself.
Yep.
So, like, healing is great, but it's not easy at all. And I think even
Right.
like coming to therapy, some people don't realize how hard healing actually is and
Yeah.
how long of a process it is. Because
Yeah.
even once you achieve your goals, it's still like a everyday
Yep.
fight not to divert to what you're used to.
Mhm. Yep.
So
Yep. And we will be talking about that. We will have an episode, Who Am I Outside of My Trauma, coming soon because that is important and it is very important. Okay, 3 words that I would use to describe myself are assertive, for sure. I feel like that's my favorite thing about myself. Like assertive, compassionate, and kind. That's what I would say for myself. I feel like once, and I say it all the time, you know, I learned the difference between nice and kind, and I realize I'm not that nice, but I'm very kind because niceness is not always favorable. Like you're not always gonna, it's not always favorable, but I'm kind because that is
mhm,
my intention. And then if anybody knows me, you know, I'm just gonna tell it like it is. I'm gonna be assertive about it.
mhm,
But and compassionate, I just be, you know, I feel like I really, not that I have to make an effort, but I feel like I've grown in learning compassion, to be compassionate. Just like I was saying before, like it's not just always about like what I think, like, well, why are you doing that? And like if 1 plus 1 doesn't always equal 2 to people, and that is what I've learned. So those are my 3 things of how I describe myself.
Okay, that's funny because I was going to put assertive for you, but I don't know. I don't know because the other things that I put for you. So I did confident and I was going to do bold, but then I feel like bold and confident is kind of the same, but then kind of not. So then
Kind
I
of
did
not. Yeah.
free because you're bold. Like I did free because like you don't let anything hold you down. Like you are very colorful. Like you're gonna wear the things. Like you're not going to be caged in or just held down by anything. Like any kind of stereotypical anything. I just love that. And then outgoing. Of course, we always have a ball.
You know, we
Like
always
we're gonna
have a
have a great
ball.
time.
Oh my
Whether it's the
goodness.
games and whatever that you have planned. So yeah,
Yeah.
I did confident, free, and outgoing for you.
Mm.
For me, I think I'm very resilient. I think that I don't know, I think I'm just gonna keep going. Like, especially now having a daughter, like
Yeah.
I just be going. Like things happen. And I
Yeah.
think that's for you too, because I think as a therapist, sometimes people assume like, your life is great, nothing has ever happened to you.
Mm.
And maybe one day we'll get into that too, like our own personal stories. But
Yes.
yeah, I am very I don't always know how I'm gonna make it through, but I'm very sure that I'm gonna make it through whatever life has for me. Not
Yeah.
because of my own strength, but because of God.
Yes.
So
Literally.
yeah.
That's
I
good
think
to know.
yeah, I think I'm a very caring person and I care about everybody. I think that, the people with the most money to the people with no money. I think even when I was pregnant, like when I told my sister, she was like, "Oh my God, your baby's going to be great." Like you literally think about everything and everyone. Like
Yes.
that's just me. Um, However, I can help anyone. That's just who I've always been.
Yeah.
Um, and the last one, I think I'm determined. There are times that I get lazy. But when I have goals, I'm gonna achieve them.
Yes. Yeah. For you, so I put nurturing first. That
Oh.
is, yeah, it's very, I feel like I learned that about you the most when we were hanging out last year.
Mhm.
Like, because, I don't know. Sometimes I'd be like, all right, whatever. You're like, no, we need to like make sure. And I'm like, and then it's like, because, and you know the situation I'm talking about, but you had said it twice. And then I was like, oh wow, she really cares. I was like, okay, let me switch gears. And like, I'm like, she's so nurturing. Like, because I know I be rough sometimes. So I'm like, I love that about you. Like, you're just so nurturing, versatile, and brave. So you kind of said that a little bit, like with like you're just kind of like trying anything or whatever, but very versatile. Like this girl's resume is like, I feel like you can't put everything on your resume and apply to one job. Like you'll have to take out certain things and put that for a different job or a different thing that you would want to do. Like that's what I'm like. You have one resume that might be like a couple pages, but then when you go for that job, okay, let me take that out. Let me take this out. But I feel like all of it, you still like in all of the things, it's like jack of all trades type, but like in like the best way. Like in the best way because you're still learning about people, like you're still reaching people, even if it's not in like a traditional sense, you're still like reaching them and like
Yeah.
have conversations with them. And I say brave to try all of it because there's some things I'm like, I just would not think of that. Like, I don't think we think of bravery in that way. We think of it as just like going and doing it, and I'm not scared, and that's just what I wanted to do. But bravery is really doing it hesitant, doing it scared, doing it, like, I don't know about that, but doing it anyway. That's what bravery is for real.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
what I
thank you. Yeah, I think there definitely are things that I have to take off my resume at times. But
Mhm.
I think like the bottom line of everything that I've done has been about people, like serving people,
Yeah.
doing things to enhance people's experience,
Mhm.
um, and just make them feel good. I just love
Yeah.
people.
Mm. Yeah, no, I do love people. Like, I mean, part of this, what is gonna make this easy is just like I be yapping. I be yapping. So my career, right? I always say like my career started in 2015. So before that, I graduated college in 2011 with a bachelor's in criminal justice. And I I don't know what I thought. Honestly, I don't know what I thought, but that degree led to a string of failed physical tests. So I knew I wasn't about to be nobody's police officer because
I never knew you wanted to be a police officer.
I didn't want to be a police officer. I didn't know what I wanted. So I just applied for everything. I didn't take the police test because before I left school, I took a swim test because they were doing like a Coast Guard thing in Virginia Beach, like for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And they were
Mm-hmm.
advertising it at the school. I'm gonna try to get through this without laughing, but so I applied, right? Because I'm like, oh, like I'm not going back to New York. Like I'm about to just live down here for the summer. So they tell you, like, I made it past. I always look good on paper. Like I always make it. But when it comes to that physical test, they're like, girl, what are you doing? Like, so I made it past the first part or whatever. And then they tell you, like, this is what you're gonna need for the swim test. You're gonna need to tread water for 10 minutes. Do like
10 minutes.
I'm gonna tell you that when I practiced that on my own, I killed it. And I was pissed because I didn't even get to that part to show the people that I could do it because I tapped out before that. So you had to tread water for 10 minutes. You had to get a dummy, you know, the boxing dummies, the ones with no arms and it just a torso and a head. You had to dive in 10 feet of water and pick him up and swim up. Like even that, saying that now, like even when I was 21, I knew I couldn't do that. So I really was just like,
You can really swim. Like you're a swimmer.
I know, but I don't think I could do that. I can't save an armless person. He needed at least an arm and I could pull him up. Like and in my mind, I'm just like, okay, like God forbid I have to save somebody. I'm sure they would have arms. Like I don't know, or a leg or some part of their body.
What shirt? Did he have a shirt on?
No, it was just the body. Like, but you know, whatever. I'm 21. Like, whatever. We just figuring out life. And when I tell you, like, as I talk and tell you my stories, like I be doing anything. I used to be in New York or in school doing anything. Like, oh yeah, let's try that. Like just whatever. So that part, and then you had to do laps. A couple of, I think it was like 6 laps, which is not bad. But the part that I ended up tapping out on was, okay, so you do front stroke, right? Like you're swimming regular, backstroke. Then they wanted me to swim on the side, like literally like this, like half of my body, say this is the water. And I'm doing like I don't know. And it's funny because when I was watching the Olympics last year, I saw them doing it in the pool for the first time since that time. Like I was just like, oh, that is real. It's like a butterfly, something. I don't know. I did the front and the back and the like above and under, and I got to that part, and you're done. That was it. So I didn't get to show them that I like, even my friends at the time, we were like, they were helping me. Like we would go to the pool at my school and I was treading water. Like I was doing real good. But yeah, I never got to show them that part. So I failed that test and I failed the test for TSA.
Wow.
I don't really, the physical thing really wasn't my thing. And then I started working, like I would just have like these random jobs, and I started looking into grad school. And that's when I decided to go into therapy, because my thing at the time was, first of all, I'm like one of the first people in my family to go, like at least in my immediate family, to go to grad school, because it was just, you got a college degree, you'll figure it out. But I also graduated during a recession, so there was that. So my first job out of college was Macy's. I worked at Macy's, and then I worked for Transit in Brooklyn in New York. And then that's when I decided like I'm going to go back to school. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I can be a therapist because I like to help people. Obviously, I like to talk, and it'll help me understand people better, because that's how I ended up in the field of criminal justice anyway, because I was like, I needed something to help me understand people. Like, like I remember sitting down, sitting down and watching the news. I'm just like, why? Like, what is wrong? Like, what? How do people think? I will say being in the field has only helped me a little bit, like having to understand how people think. But I do feel like I'm able to help people a lot. So then that's where I started school. I got denied from the first school I wanted to go to. And then I went to a different school for a semester. And then I tried again, and I ended up getting into John Jay. And then I started working for child welfare. And I did those two things simultaneously, which was crazy. And then I graduated, moved to Florida, and now I'm licensed and I work for myself. So.
Lord, I'm trying to think. I remember. Okay. So my road to here. So I feel like I always knew I wanted to be a social worker. In high school, I would be friends with the people who got picked on, who got bullied, who got tripped up. And it was weird because I was a cheerleader, so they expected me to like only care about, I guess, the football team and basketball team.
Yeah.
But I would spend time in the special education class because one of the football players, his mom taught the special education class. So I would be down there with them. I remember there was a student who, like, I don't know, he brought a gun or a knife or something to school. And I was like, well, let's go talk to him. Like, what's wrong? So I went to go to like just like try to be people's friend. I was part of like the peer mediation group, like doing those. So I always knew I wanted to be a social worker. I had a family friend, or like my aunt, really, is what I call her, who works for CFSA. So I did a lot of internships there, which is child welfare. I thought that that was the route that I wanted to take, but we were talking about like education and stuff, and just saying like there wasn't a need to get a bachelor's and a master's in social work because you need a master's in social work so you could get your bachelor's in something else. I also did criminal justice because I thought about, you know, working in jails, being a probation officer, parole officer, because that's just the population that I love. So I went to UMES. While I was up there, what did I do? I worked at the daycare on campus because I like kids. So I worked at a daycare on campus. I was Miss Senior, and even like with that, like giving out like care packages, just like random people like walking throughout the campus. I remember like just making like gift bags and just handing them out while I was running. I tried to do like motivation Mondays and stuff like that. Like I just always cared about people. After that, I knew I wanted to get my master's in social work, so I pretty much went straight back into school. While teaching, I taught third grade and first grade because, again, another experiment. I was like, you know, what's happening in the schools that teachers aren't able to, you know, meet the emotional needs of students. So I'm like, well, let's be a teacher and find out. So I went and did that, and it was a great experience. I definitely got the answers to the questions that I was looking for. I had to do an internship, so I did an internship at in Baltimore with case management. I did an internship at a community college with the Back on Track program, which again was like students or young people who had the opportunity based on their charges to either go to jail or go to a community college. So I was the program manager of that program. And then I graduated, got my master's in social work, studied during COVID and everything, got my license. Then I decided to move to the Virgin Islands. Down there, I was working for a private practice.
I said she be doing stuff.
I was working for a private practice at first. Then I worked for Department of Health, doing like pretty much not case management, but like community outreach. I was in charge or the supervisor of community health workers. That was a great experience. I was on a grant, but was able to just like get into grant writing. I did different classes, and just they paid for me to get like different certificates and stuff like that in terms of grant writing. I also was a manager for a bar down there. I also got my my bartending license.
Time. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
I also got my bartending license because I think even at that point, I realized that a lot of people aren't going to therapy, but they need somebody to talk to. And it's like when they don't go to therapy, where do they go? They go to the bar. So now your therapist is at the bar. So like I'm gonna be here talking to you, but I actually have like a background in mental health. I also was a shampoo girl because I realized people also talk in the hair salon. So I
didn't even know the shampoo thing. I didn't even know that.
I was also in a hair salon because again, I'm like, people talk in there too. So let me go in there. And now I think that's everything. And now I am a social worker at alternative schools. So I work with 18 to 24-year-olds who are doing credit recovery and trying to get their high school diploma.
See, I told you, versatile. You reminded me of something. and I don't know how I could forget this. The reason that I got into criminal justice is because I was like, I wanted to help with recidivism rates. That was my original goal. So it was having to do with helping people, but by the time I got to my senior year and like trying to figure out, am I moving back to New York? Am I like, what am I doing? I was just taking anything that came, because it's not like there was like like a recidivism reducer, like
Yeah,
job position waiting for me. You know what I mean? So, and that's how it translated to therapy. I don't know how I could forget that, because that literally was my
yeah.
motivation to begin with. Because I even but even up to my master's was I got my master's in forensic mental health counseling. So I still, if we're thinking about what else I can do in the field, like I still have that as a that I have really haven't even explored yet. So because a lot of work that I've done is like in crisis. I used to work mobile
Mhm.
crisis and talking people out of like suicidal ideations or having breakdowns and all this kind of stuff. So that's part of the field that I haven't even touched yet. That we'll see we'll see
Yeah,
where we
and
end up.
that's
So
why I like social work, or that's why I'm glad that I did do like social work and criminal justice, because there's just so many things that I could do, and because it's like this is my passion, like it all falls in line with that.
yeah,
When I got my master's, initially I thought I wanted to do child welfare, so I did work at CFSA for a while, but I felt like I worked again with like the older kids who were
yeah,
about to age out. Um, and I just felt like a lot of the responsibility was on the social worker
hmm,
instead of the student. So I didn't care, or the child, and I didn't
hmm,
care for that because I felt like, if the child didn't go to their doctor's appointments or whatever the case is, the social worker would get in trouble for that. But
yeah,
then, like, the child would age out and they didn't learn the skill because I took you, or I did the work to make sure that
hmm,
you didn't go because it reflected on my job.
yep,
And I didn't like that because then when they age out of care, they don't have the skills now that they need. And I mean, some people do, of course, like some did learn them and stuff like that. But I just felt like it should be more on the child,
yeah,
figuring out how to support them, getting them to learn the skills,
hmm,
because it is, even in my job now, like it's very hard seeing, people have skills and have supports. And then when they reach a certain age, those skills are gone.
yep,
Um, so that was around the time that I was teaching, and I was like, I really like being in the school,
hmm,
also because it's a lot easier. Like you got to come to school. Like I don't got to drive around the world looking for you. Like you got to come here. Um,
me.
so I knew that I wanted to get into a school. I didn't really ever think I would be in an alternative school, but
Mhm.
it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
And it worked out, and I love it. I don't think I will ever leave. I definitely think there are things that I want to do on the outside, or like because I have breaks and stuff like that.
yeah.
There are things I want to do in addition, but I definitely want to stay in the
Want to
schools.
stay. See, and that's like me with virtual. Like I don't think that I would ever stop seeing clients one on one. Maybe not as many, so that I could do other things. But because I used to run groups when I worked in one of the inpatient facilities that I worked in, and I like that. I enjoyed that. So groups is also something else that I'm looking into doing as well. But when you talked about the like when you worked for child welfare and it was like more on the like not on like it came down to the worker essentially. That's how it was when I was in New York as well. Like it's just but with the parent. So if I go visit a home and I do everything that I'm supposed to do, and the parent is telling me I'm looking in the cabinets, I'm looking, seeing nobody got marks and bruises or whatever, and then a case get calls in the next day, it's on me. Like I'm the one who didn't do my job. There's more responsibility on me as a person who is doing a job versus the parent who's actually, you know what I mean? Like actually the parent. So that's for
Yeah,
me
that's what I
why,
say too. It's like this, these are 18, 19-year-old kids. If they don't want to go to their dentist appointment, they're not going to their dentist appointment. Like, what you want me to do? They don't want to go.
what you want me to do,
They're like,
literally.
oh, well, you need to go pick them up and drop them off. For what? Because then they're going to age out and not have the skills. Like, let their teeth fall out, and then they'll realize how to
And they
prioritize it.
learn. And
Like,
that's how they learn. That's what, at some point we will talk about rock bottom. But yes, like that's what it'll be. They'll learn. So
yeah, like, or it'll be different. Okay, well, I'm not picking you up. Like, we need to go ride this train because when you turn 21, I
yeah.
can't pick you up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Just giving people
so,
different options. So and I think that's what this platform is going to be able to provide for people. Like, just that there's different options. You have options, and just giving people different thought patterns. I think that's the biggest thing when you educate people, is like not telling them what you think, but that there are other possibilities, or way. And also, not that just because you disagree with what somebody says, that what they have to say is invalid. I may Whatever you have to say is valid because you said it. That's what you feel. But that doesn't mean everybody has to disagree. 9 times out of 10, people will not agree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I remember even like people asking me, because of course, like I moved back to the DMV after COVID and everything, after having my daughter, so more recently. And there are now like a lot of school therapist positions available, or like school social workers and stuff like that. So people ask like, why did you go into alternative school versus just a regular school, whatever the case is? And I'm like, because the regular schools are just starting. Like
yeah,
alternative schools, like we know what we're dealing with. We have the
yeah,
resources, we have the funding. We've already figured out how to do this because we've been doing this for a while. And I
yeah,
felt like if I went to a regular school, if I asked for certain funding to do things like, oh well, why do you need that? Like y'all not understanding the importance or like all that goes
yeah,
into this yet. And I'm
yeah.
like,
I agree with that.
I'm not there. Like
I agree with that. From working with a lot of high school kids, like they would have a counselor at school, but also, and I can't say this for all schools, but overall, because I know some school counselors that are really able to reach children. But to be clear, when you're in school, that's the priority. So, like, it is your education. But obviously, if you're in an alternative school, like you're doing credit recovery, so something, there's a reason why you didn't get it in the first place. So yeah, now we that's where we know we could look at what happened, and then you have somebody to talk to about it. But if a parent, at least from my experience, like if a parent says, I don't want you talking to that counselor, you're not gonna talk to him. Or they're just gonna call in a case on you and make it worse. You know what I mean? So it's just, so yeah, I do. I see what you're saying there.
But like you said, like they're like if a student comes in, like I have some students who are homeless. If I say like, yeah, so and so he not getting no work today, he gonna be in the back sleeping, they understand. If I was in a regular school, like, what do you mean he's not doing no work? Blah blah. He has to get something done. Like I don't. Those aren't the fights that I want to have right now. I want to be fighting for my students, for other things, for resources and stuff like that. Not because you don't understand why 1 + 1 = 2 is not the priority right now.
Right. Yep. Stay tuned for myths being debunked, information about dealing with emotional regulation, topics that aren't so, like topics that are just beyond depression and anxiety or mental health buzzwords. And, some really good banter between two cousins that started.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in.
See you next time. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.